Welcome to The Localist, a conversation with local makers and independent entrepreneurs. I'm your host, author of the Localist book, and former small business owner, Carrie Rollwagen. So today I wanted to talk about how to reset your week at the end of the week so that you start the next week strong. So this is something that I've done in some form for a couple of years. But I really recently, in the past year, I really started this, I think, in January. Started to be more specific about it because I took a calendar course from Kelly Nolan. So everybody I work with, and honestly, most people in my personal life know that I'm a big nerd about Kelly Nolan's calendaring. I watched the course, and there's a free course. We'll link to it in the show notes. So she also has a paid course, but I took the free course, and it really helped me to get a handle on how to arrange my calendar so that my life is more doable. But one of the things that she says to do is what we're going to talk about today, and that's doing kind of an end of the week, having an end of the week agenda to plan your next week. So what Kelly says, and I feel like this too, is that you should do this on a Friday. Some people do it on Sunday, and that's totally fine. Do what works for your life. I like to do this on Friday because it kind of helps me to wrap up the week that's just happened, and then also helps me to look to the week ahead, but then I still have a break in between times. So she actually has a recommended agenda that you walk through, and whether or not you use her agenda, I actually do think it's a good idea to just create your own Google Doc or checklist or however you keep track of things. Create your own list of things that you want to go through whenever you take this time. So here are a few tips in setting up your end of week agenda. First of all, Kelly recommends that you set aside 2 hours. And I recommend doing this too if you possibly can. So 2 hours is a long time, like it seems like, right? You're thinking think about how much I could actually get done in 2 hours. But actually, when we're looking at how long this takes, it really does often take a lot of time. Now, I will say, I guess break with her a little bit in that I aim for 2 hours. I rarely get that time, but I kind of have an abbreviated form of this that I make sure I do. So my longer form includes some other things. I'll talk about that in a second. But my abbreviated form is that I at least, personally, I try to look at my schedule for the next week, and it helps me to just physically write down the meetings that I have the next week. Now, I'm booked for a lot of meetings, and I also tend to be double and triple booked for meetings. And this is when I figure this out. This is another reason that it's important for me to do this on Friday instead of on Sunday. Because on Friday, I look at the next week's calendar, and a lot of times I'll find, this person booked me for a meeting, but I'm actually in this other meeting already. If you're thinking, doesn't your calendar say that already? Yes, it does. But you probably have experienced this too, that not everybody looks at your calendar before they plan events. So I will look at things like that. Or maybe one thing was I was going to need more travel time, and I kind of look and make sure that those things really work. Or for example, as we're recording this, the next week I have a speaking event. So when I have speaking events, if at all possible, I try to work remotely the afternoon of the day before. For 2 reasons. One, I actually can practice my my talk, but also it just helps me to kind of save that introvert energy, and I have a little bit more extroverting the next day. And I can't always do that, but that rhythm works really well for me. So it helps me to look at that calendar, and for me, it just helps me to actually write it out on a piece of paper so that I kind of can grasp what is my flow of the next week going to look like. And I do it on Friday because a lot of times I'll have to get in touch with other people to move things around. So if I get double or triple booked, I'll talk to those people and say, hey, can you move this to another day? I can't do it then. Or sometimes it really is just looking at my meetings. If I say I want to do this half day remote, I may not have to reschedule anything, but I might get in touch with those people who have those meetings and say hey, is it okay if we do this remote? So I'm just really setting myself up for the next week. So for me, the minimum thing that I do is make sure that I look at my schedule for the next week. And then I also schedule my tasks on my Google Calendar as well. I do a Google Tasks for that. And I use Kelly's method for that too. So I'll also look at my task list and see, is there anything that I missed from this week that I need to carry over? I'll try to schedule time for that. And I also try to make a to-do list for Monday so that when I walk in Monday morning, I know what I'm trying to do that day. So those are some of the things that are kind of the must-dos for me, especially just looking at that calendar as a must-do. If I have to make my Monday agenda on Monday or something like that, that's fine. But the calendar is super, super important for me. So yes, I try to set aside 2 hours. Now, I will say, Kelly says that you shouldn't actually do work at this time. You're just organizing the work. And I think that actually is very true. Now, I also kind of break this rule. So for me, if it is something like moving a meeting, that's work I allow myself to do. And honestly, most things personally, if they're going to take less than 5 minutes, I'll usually try to go ahead and knock those out. Because to me, it's important that those get out of my headspace. Also, a lot of times because of my particular job, I'm kind of like the first leg in the relay. Like I'm asking someone else to research something, or I'm passing on my research and they're going to write it or they're going to approve it or whatever. So I do, if it's like a 5-minute or less task and and that can help me keep a project moving, then I'm going to go ahead and do that. But it is important not to jump into big things. And if you think something is small and then you get into it and it actually is bigger, make sure you actually do schedule time for this later or put it on your to-do list for Monday or whatever you're going to do, because that will suck away all of your agenda time if you use it to just do work. But one thing Kelly added that I hadn't really thought of is to add fun things to your agenda. I know this is like, I feel like this is a huge nerd thing, that this whole podcast is about calendaring and making an agenda and making to-do lists. And I'm saying to make it fun. But I don't mean make the event fun, although if you can, great. But she says to add things like, is there anything I can do with a friend next week? You know, can I grab coffee with somebody? Can I get a lunch with somebody? Is there a movie I want to see this week? I actually add... I'll try to look and see if something's coming out on Netflix that I could maybe look forward to this weekend. Or is there something that you want to cook? Or if you meal plan a lot, you could meal plan during this time. And I really actually love that, because I think so much in our lives we get so wrapped up in trying to like do more and be more efficient and get more work done. And we don't necessarily think about those things that can be more pleasurable, I guess. So it is helpful to me to see like what books are coming out, what movies are coming out. Is there a friend I could see this weekend, and to try to make this work for me personally and not just professionally. So I would follow Kelly on Instagram. I think it's just Kelly Nolan. You can Google, like we'll put that in the show notes so you can find out for sure. But she posts a lot of great content as far as organizing your work and calendaring. I think her calendar course is really, really great. But whether or not you do that, I would definitely attempt to do some kind of end of the week wrap up or end of the week agenda. It really does help you to make sure that you are getting your tasks done and they aren't just dropping off and never going to be seen again. And it can really help you to set up your next week so that you go into your next week refreshed and focused and not feeling like you're already drowning. So the Localist podcast is written and produced by me, Carrie Rollwagen. Our showrunner is Taylor Davis, and Elena Harmond is our promotions manager. We record right here at Infomedia Studios, so if you're interested in doing your own podcast or recording some social media, head to infomedia.com and fill out that contact form. We would love to help you out. You can find show notes from this week's episode at carrierollwagen.com, and you can find me on pretty much any social media platform at CRollwagen. So until next time, here's to thinking global by acting local and putting small shops before big bucks.